Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
I am your host, Chris Stachiw. My co-host, Sean Liang, is not with us today. He is currently flying to the lovely state of Ohio. However, I am joined by a good friend of mine and a fellow writer/podcaster in his own right for Kulturecast.com, Mr. Mark Hall.
Scraping the bottom of the goddamn barrel of the night, aren't you?
Scraping that scro, dude. We are kicking off True Crime Month with a look at the Town That Dreaded Sundown from 2014. It's true crime in a roundabout way. It is not the original film, but it is based off of it's a meta. It's kind of like a weird meta thing. I don't know. It's like a meta sequel, but not really a sequel.
Yeah, it's the retelling of a true story.
Yeah. So it's a little strange, but it's definitely worth talking about. I feel like it really went under the radar when it came out in 2014. But before we talk about that film, let's talk a little bit of Stream Police. Mr. Hall, have you been watching anything on Netflix? Anything you want to suggest to the listeners?
You know, I've been trying to go through and clear out not only my gaming library, but also my Netflix queue of stuff that I put on there, put on my list and just haven't gotten to.
Eons ago.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff on my Netflix queue is from back when they sent DVDs.
Oh, yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Same here. One of the shows I actually got to, and this is super old, and what got me to watch it actually was Carrie Fisher's passing. I started the Clone Wars series, and if somehow you've been living under a rock and you haven't watched it, it is super good. I started it...
Living under a rock.
You've not seen it?
Nope.
So when I first started it, and I was thinking to myself, like, this is going to be just another dumbass kids cartoon where, shucks, Anakin, that dastardly Count Dooku got away. More like Count Dookie Obi-Wan, and they'd high five and the credits would play. No, there is actual, like, people die and people swear. And like the first or second episode, somebody says hell, people are getting decapitated and arms cut off and murders happening, no cut to the side or any of that shit. It's pretty visceral for a kid's show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's if you're a fan of the Star Wars universe or just kind of want a cartoon that's still for kids but has enough action and substance to keep you entertained as an adult, definitely check it out.
And plus Star Wars, so...
Of course. How about you?
People love Star Wars, so I think that's not really a hard sell. Over the holidays, I didn't really get a chance to watch a whole lot because, family and family being here just kind of, that consumed most of my time and all that good stuff. I would suggest, though, checking out, if you haven't, keeping kind of with your cartoon theme, Animaniacs, which is still like one of the most subversive, it's a pretty mainstream cartoon. It's a pretty subversive cartoon for like mainstream.
It is.
Because a lot of the jokes are for adults, but it's like hidden in a kid's show.
Yes. Similar to Rocko's Modern Life or Ren and Stimpy. It's kind of cut from that same cloth.
Yeah. Where the show is quote-unquote for kids because it's a cartoon, but at the same time, so many of the jokes are for adults.
Oh, yes. I know the fingerprints joke is kind of an internet thing nowadays, but...
It's a good show. It's funny. There's a lot of, 90s kind of pop culture-y jokes, and the animation style is good. I mean, it was partially produced by Steven Spielberg, so...
Yes.
Quality of the show should be pretty obvious if Steven Spielberg is involved, so... But I think we should talk The Town That Dreaded Sundown from 2014. IMDb synopsis for the film is 65 years after a masked serial killer terrorized the small town of Texarkana. The so-called Moonlight Murders begin again. Is it a copycat or something even more sinister?
Grandma, do you remember anything about the murders?
Your great-grandpa and your great-grandma lived in this house when it happened. He was the boogeyman, they said. Can't catch the boogeyman. Can't kill the boogeyman. You know, before that summer, everybody would leave their doors unlocked. And after the summer, you saw a stranger. You'd run the other way. And now, he's back.
What do you want?
Turn around. Do not look back.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
The town of Texarkana has awoken to a gruesome act of violence.
He could have killed me. He didn't.
He chose that girl to be his messenger.
They couldn't catch me 66 years ago, and they never will.
People say that he was a demon or a spirit.
A soul consumed by vengeance.
We are not hunting a ghost. We are after a flesh and blood killer.
Just about everyone around here's got some kind of blood on their hands. He's gonna make the town pay for its sins.
Some days turn out great, it's okay. 'Cause some days turn out bright, it's alright.
Again and again until you make them remember.
Mark, I know you had not seen this film before. I had only watched this film once, maybe last year, year before that. Give me your thoughts on the film.
Man, I loved it. And the few times I've done the Kulturecast, I'm kind of the odd man out because I'm not a huge...
You're not a movie guy.
Not a big movie guy, no. This was one of the better horror films I've seen in years. I mean, even at 2 years old, this is the best horror film I've seen probably in the last decade, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
There was a good mix of suspense and violence. The characters were very recognizable. You know, I never felt like the movie drug, which a lot of horror movies do. They end up, particularly Friday the 13th and Nightmare series, they all kind of are about violence and tits. Once the Hooters are on the screen.
After the first in the series of those respective series.
Yeah. Right.
No offense to anything past the first Friday and the first Nightmare, but, well, I guess third Nightmare isn't really about that, but.
Yeah, that was the anomaly.
Yeah, odd man out.
But really, I mean, the slasher genre is kind of the violence, tits, big reveal, end of the movie. And this didn't have that. I mean, there was nudity and there was a lot of violence, but...
It has it, but it's done well.
It is. It's really... I don't... Dare I say it's artistically done.
It is. So that's kind of the thing about this film that really, for me, sets it apart from pretty much any other remake sequel that I can think of, is that the director of the film, Alfonso Gomez-Rejon, he has an eye for what he wants to show you in a scene, and he uses lighting in a way that is, I mean, it's better than most horror directors even care about. He put a lot of emphasis on the use of lighting in the film.
Yes, the set work, lighting, camera angles, everything, all those little touches that made, and we'll get into some of the hints in the movie, but there's a scene right at the beginning of the movie where the entire scene is almost exclusively blanketed in red light. And it adds this whole extra kind of layer and extra dynamic to what's happening on the screen.
Yeah, it's the tail light of a car is kind of framing a character being murdered. Right. In like the first 5 minutes of the movie. And it's a really artistically done scene.
There's a lot of callbacks to kind of the early roots of the slasher genre, the weird lighting effects and kind of the non-traditional camera angles. These days, Friday the 13th is kind of synonymous with the over the right shoulder camera angle before somebody's going to get murdered. And that was in this movie a few times, particularly at the beginning and a couple times at the end, where you notice the camera is kind of in an awkward positioning above the character.
Right. And another thing that this film does really well, and it's something that because of the way that it is shot and the kind of the roots of this film being a meta sequel to the original film, which is essentially a docudrama about the phantom killings in Texarkana, Texas, they are able to cut between the original film and this film and like juxtapose them against one another, which is a really novel thing to do in a horror film, and it's something that sets it apart from, say, a Friday or a Nightmare, because those films don't have that kind of source material to draw from.
I love some of my favorite parts of the movie, and some of my favorite scenes were when they would do just that. There's a character somewhere towards the beginning of the film who has kind of a little mini monologue, and he sits down to watch. He says, I've never seen the original movie, because in this film,
in this universe, the movie exists.
Right.
Because the actual events exist.
Right. In the original movie. Because the original events did exist, which means the movie existed. So in this reality, which is our reality, right, everything existed. So the police officer says, well, I've never seen the movie. And he goes and watches the movie, and he sees what he said verbatim take place in the film that he's watching. It was really cool how they did tie the original movie and the remake together.
Yeah, because that's the thing about this movie. Like you said, it's a remake, but it almost isn't a remake, right? It's like a remake in title only. Like that was the name of the other film, was The Town That Dreaded Sundown. But it's not. It's kind of not a remake, right?
No,
Wikipedia classifies it as a meta sequel, but I don't even. It's meta. But I don't know if it's a sequel. It's kind of a sequel to the original film, but not really.
Yeah, it's not even really a spiritual successor. I don't know how exactly I'd classify this, because it's really strange. I mean, I've not seen another movie like it.
No,
so I don't have anything to compare it to.
Stands on its own in this kind of weird spot where they're telling the story of people that live in a town where this movie was made off of the events, the murders that happened in this town. So it's really strange, but it's strange in a good way, because if they had just gone straight remake,
right,
or straight reboot, or straight reimagining, I think it would have completely negated anything that this movie does right. And it would have been just like, oh, why do I need to see this movie if I can just go watch the original?
Right.
I'm not saying that the original is great. I mean, the original is good for what it was. But I think the way that the style that they chose for this film works in its favor in kind of setting it apart from, say, the other reboots that we saw in the last 5-6 years, like the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot, like the Friday the 13th reboot.
A consequence of that, of how they chose to shoot the movie and the story that they decided to tell, what ends up happening is the town, Texarkana, Texas, the town ends up becoming a character.
Right.
The town is just as much a character of this film as Corey or Jami or any of the cops. You get introduced to Texarkana as this town that and perhaps I'm digging too deep into this, but you almost get the sense that the town is kind of eternally fucked.
Yeah, it's that you kind of get the sense that the town has always been haunted by this like specter of the Phantom, because the Phantom was never caught.
Right.
So the Phantom's like looming, always kind of off in the distance, and parents would tell their kids the Phantom will get you. It's like a boogeyman. Mm-hmm. It's like it's like a cautionary tale you tell your kids to go to bed at night or not go out to the lovers' lanes.
Right.
And that's kind of the whole point of Texarkana in this film, is that this is kind of a cursed town, a town that has this like, I want to say in the film, one of the characters says something to the effect, every town has its dirty secrets. And, these are just not that. This isn't really a secret. This is like a pretty well-known thing. This is a well-known issue. This is a well-known event that happened that everybody knew about because of the movie.
Well, the characters give you, the dialogue in the movie leads credence to this. People don't say in the film, "Oh, I've lived in this city for 20 years." They say, "I've lived in Texarkana for 20 years." They always refer to the town, to the city as Texarkana. They refer to it by name. So you almost have this attachment to, as a viewer, to Texarkana as kind of this, you get the feeling that there's some sort of like mystical hocus pocus magic.
But then they ground it in reality.
Right.
The end of the film is grounded in reality. It's not some sort of supernatural force. It's not a ghost that's returned. Which, I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like the way the film ends for me is it falls a little flat with how great the rest of the film was.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. 100%.
Yeah, the end of the film falls a little flat because there's there's these pieces that end up fitting together a little too neatly, and then there's this kind of monologue at the end, this narration monologue that ties everything up a little too neatly for me in a bow, regarding the motivations of the characters that turn out to be the killers.
The motivations, I think, were the kind of part that felt the flattest for me. And
they're just bad because they're bad.
Yeah, they're just evil people. Well, that's fucking boring.
I mean, but at the same time, like there's a little bit of terror to that in and of itself, because people just killing people because. But one of the characters has motivation. The problem is for me was in the film, spoilers, there are two Phantoms as opposed to just one, and the main Phantom turns out to be one of the police officers, and there's his reasoning for being the Phantom is really weak. The original Phantom killed my great-grandfather or my grandfather, and no one remembered because he was cut up on a train track, and so they thought he was run over by a train, which fucking news break, someone who's run over a train isn't neatly cut into like 5 pieces.
With both pieces being on the same side of the train track.
Yeah, so it was, they don't remember my grandfather, so I'm gonna take out my anger on the town that forgot my grandfather's death. And it's that's pretty weak.
I don't think horror movies in general should end with everything wrapped up so neat. And it felt like if this film had one shortcoming, it seemed there was almost this grand effort to make sure that every thread was left tied up. In the beginnings of the film, they make it very clear that the Phantom, the man in the bag, has these bright blue eyes. And all throughout the film, they get close-ups of different people. This crazy fucker who was the son of the guy who directed the original film, he has bright blue eyes. One of the cops has bright blue eyes. The main character's boyfriend. Yeah.
There's like 4 or 5 characters in the film that have blue eyes.
And then they make a point of it, like, hey, this guy has bright blue eyes too. So there's kind of this guessing game. And then one by one, they're all kind of eliminated from contention to be the killer. And you're left watching the movie like, oh, I don't know what the fuck's going on. And as the film gets to its crescendo, it just hits this wall once that explanation happens. And as you said, there's the monologue at the end. Well, I moved to California. Now I'm all happy, and me and my perky tits are going to college, and everything's A-okay.
Yeah, and that to me, it gilds the lily a little bit, because the film up until the end, into those like last 10 minutes, is really well done.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, it's like, well, you're tying it up a little too quickly. You're tying it up a little too neatly. You're kind of just writing off the thing is, well, there are bad people in the world, and bad people are always going to do bad things. So there you go. That's kind of what it felt to me like, and I was like, well, that's a kind of that's a weak explanation. That's weak.
If that's going to be your motivation and your explanation for people killing people, that should be established at the beginning of the movie. Because there was no throwaway line that I remember of anybody saying, well,
maybe it's just because.
And I mean that, there's an expression, some people just want to watch the world burn, which is fine if that's your motivation, that some people just like shooting and killing people. That's cool, but there was no pretext for that at the beginning of the film. So, you're on the edge of your seat, and then all of a sudden, it's the fucking, trying to think of, it reminds me of Scooby-Doo a little bit.
Yeah, this guy that they've been working with the whole movie turns out to be the bad guy.
Right? Captain Lammers!
Yeah, it's the issue that I have with the ending is they try to tie everything up neatly but then they don't, on top of everything else. It ties up super neatly, but then there's like two little threads hanging that I felt like, on top of the film tying up too neatly, these two tiny things, they're trying to like maybe leave it just the door open a crack for a sequel. It's like, well, the cop who was the Phantom, she shot him in the head, point blank, and killed him at the end of the film, but they never found his body. And then there's a Phantom's shadow walking behind her on the school campus. And obviously there's no context given to it because that's the last shot of the film.
Right.
And that's what I asked you as soon as the film ended. I was like, well, is that supposed to be, is that the real Phantom? Is that like the manifestation of her kind of what she was talking about in the monologue, how there's always darkness, just out of the corner of your eye when the sun goes down? Or is it actually the character from the film who supposedly died following her again? And I just don't know. And I feel like that's super cheap.
It's super cheap and
it's like a typical horror movie thing. Like that's a horror movie trope that we've seen since Friday the 13th.
Which is fine. I loved this movie. I would be okay with sequels. However, I do not want to see The Phantom takes UC Berkeley.
Excuse me, sir. Cal State.
Oh, Cal State, wherever the hell she went.
It was probably filmed somewhere not at Cal State.
Yeah.
It wasn't filmed at Cal State. Cal State doesn't look like that. Cal State's like a West Coast Ivy League school. And that looked like a community college that they threw like a banner on. Cal State in quotations.
If this is going to become a franchise.
Which I don't think it is.
I hope it does, actually. And you're right, it won't. But
we're 2 years removed from it being out.
Correct.
3 almost now.
If this were going to become a franchise, I really feel like the whole mythos of it, similar to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series, is kind of tied to the city.
Right.
Texas Chainsaw is always going to be, well, obviously it's in the damn title, but...
Right. It always takes place in, like, backwoods central Texas.
Right. The Town That Dreaded Sundown, I feel like such pains were taken to
filmed in Texarkana.
Right. To make Texarkana a character. And not to keep going back to the same central theme, but that is what happened. Texarkana was just as much part of the story as anybody else. To take the Phantom out of Texarkana and treat him just like Michael Myers or any other, carbon copy slasher character, I don't feel like does this film and the director or the writer any justice.
Right. I agree. The town of Texarkana really is, it's a fantastic setting.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really well shot in the film. You get a sense of this is a town that is kind of stuck in the past.
Right, yeah.
Which that was something we talked about when we were watching the film, is there's almost like a timeless quality to the film that isn't there in a lot of like Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th, where you can tell what decade this is shot in. But the characters in this film, some of them don't dress like they're in 2013.
All the car, like with one exception, with the two kids that were about to blow each other. The highlight of the movie for me. All the cars are old. All the appliances are old. The houses are old. The interiors are old. The guns are old.
The gun that he uses, two of the guns that he uses are old. He uses a Bowie knife, which again, completely a timeless weapon.
Even the crossbow, like it's not like a new style compound bow. It's like an old, like.
Is it? I thought it was a compound bow.
I don't believe it was.
I don't remember. The ending of this film for me just really, no, but the arrows.
Yeah, the arrows were the
expanding tip arrows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is really, again, it's going back to this kind of sense of place and style that the director really does a great job of like allowing to come through. Because most horror movies are about the kills and the tits, and that's what you go for. But this movie has like a very interesting sense of style that kind of elevates it past just another remake.
Right.
And that also ties back to some of the actors in the film, I feel like. I mean, you have Veronica Cartwright, comes from Alien. You have Gary Cole, who's just a fantastic character actor. Edward Herman, another fantastic character actor. Ed Lauter, who I loved in The Rocketeer, another fantastic character actor. Ed Lauter is like the most believable Texas sheriff / cop I can think of. I mean, just you look at his face and you can tell he has like the cop look,
right.
The private detective look, and you know the actors in the film are actually really good on top of everything else. Which again, for a horror movie, normally they don't focus on casting really fantastic actors. It's all about the kills in the film and who's going to die and you know, this kind of the formulaic.
As far as the actors go, so Anthony Anderson shows up playing a Texas Ranger when they have to call in the cavalry to solve this murder.
But they just kind of show up, don't they? Yeah,
he just shows up. I find this, and so the film is set in Texarkana. I found it interesting that the director chose to have a very prominent African-American actor who is...
He's a pretty big TV show, right? Blackish.
Yes. Yeah, he is. And he's leading this cavalcade of officers who are all old white men. It was odd to me. Like, I expected racial tension.
I expected his character to die.
I did too.
I was getting this film confused with Scream 4. You remember he's in Scream 4, right?
Is he?
Isn't he in Scream 4 and gets stabbed in the head?
He might have been a long time since I've seen that
movie. It's like him and like Adam Brody are the two cops in Scream 4. And one of them gets like stabbed in the head and he's like bleeding out.
I think so.
I mean, that film is... that film's not great, so no. That's probably why I'm like trying to blot it out of my memory, because that film is pretty middle of the road.
Well, I was expecting like, okay, here it comes. You know, the good old boys from Texas. I ain't gonna listen to no, bugaboo coming to tell me how to do my job. Probably the least offensive racial slur I could use.
Fair enough.
So, but.
And that's not the racial slur they would use in
Texarkana,
in East Texas, yeah.
Well, and
northeastern Texas, right on the border of Arkansas.
The mayor of Arkansas was black in one of the scenes when they had the mayor of Texas.
The mayor of the Arkansas side was black, yeah. And then the mayor of the Texas side was a woman.
Was a woman.
So do you know who produced this film? Obviously Blumhouse, Jason Blum. Do you know who the other producer was?
I do not.
Ryan Murphy, who has also written and produced American Horror Story and Glee.
Really?
Which makes a lot of sense. There's like gay characters in the film. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of racial diversity in this film that you don't get to see in a lot of horror movies, and those characters survive. Except for the two gay characters where
I don't think
we can talk about that. That scene I feel like is a little much.
I kind of agree. It was kind of weird.
But I like seeing a film with diversity that's supposed to take place in in a Texas town, but there's a lot of diversity in the film.
See, I don't. I personally don't. I don't feel the need to
pander.
Right, exactly. The exact word I was going to use.
But I don't feel like it was pandering. It didn't feel pandering.
I mean, there was a very obvious point, to make the mayor of the Texas side of Texarkana a woman and the the mayor of the Arkansas side black. The one black Texas Ranger coming in there.
But they didn't make a point of it.
That's what I'm saying.
They weren't like, well, get out of here. We don't like your kind around here. They never said that kind of stuff.
Is that believable?
What? Yeah, I think so. He's a Texas Ranger.
I mean, I don't think that people in the South are just, driving in the backwoods.
In Ryan Murphy's South, they are. This is an accepting South, okay? This is an all-inclusive South. That's what this is supposed to be. This is like all-inclusive South.
It feels unauthentic to me. As a good homeboy from Nebraska, and I think
it felt authentic to me because I'm from Texas, and it felt authentic to me.
That was actually just what I was going to ask. My interpretation and what I was taught about the South as a queer person of color is probably different than what you have experienced as a white male,
as someone who lived in Texas.
So my perception is that a black mayor in Arkansas, or a black candidate for mayor in Arkansas, would have been not only laughed out of the building, but probably strung and drawn behind a pickup truck.
No, that's not Texas. You're thinking of like Alabama.
Well, I said Arkansas.
Yeah. I think you maybe have a point in that it's a little unbelievable, but I don't think it's like glaringly unbelievable, if that makes sense. Like the mayor of like the Texas side is gay. You know what I mean? Or,
what?
Like, I didn't think it was like unbelievable for a small town to have a female mayor. You know what I mean? Maybe it was like, oh, he's a gay mayor, or you know what I mean? Something like that, where it's like super unbelievable.
Right.
But I didn't feel it was unbelievable.
Maybe unbelievable isn't necessarily the right word. I feel that it was...
Was it distracting?
A little bit, because it was so obvious. It was so obvious what was going on. This room filled with white people.
Old white people.
Old white people. And here comes a young, cute, strapping black guy to lead them all to salvation. You know, that...
But he ends up not even doing anything. So that's kind of... I mean, right? Like, the cops in the film end up doing nothing.
So they all suck.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, the cops in the film end up doing nothing.
I mean, not to sound... I mean, I know I sound like a Republican talking head. It was an interesting thing that I noticed right off the bat. Watching the movie. That being said, it did not take away from how this film is. And
like we said, the actors in the film are really good.
Yes.
They are really good. I mean, and unfortunately you have Anthony Anderson in the film, who has kind of come into his own recently as a fantastic television actor, but he doesn't really give it a whole lot to do. He is not even part of the climax of the film. Veronica Cartwright, I think she is a good, like, grandma character in the film. Gary Cole's good, like, possible suspect. Same with Edward Herman or Denis O'Hare from American Horror Story.
The scene at the houseboat when they're kind of having that long, drawn-out dialogue about the original killer was definitely a highlight of the movie.
I mean, anytime they talk about the actual killings, for me, that's a highlight. But that's because I like films like Zodiac, which are true crime films that are recounting events.
Yes.
As opposed to this film that's kind of tangentially recounting the events. But I know that most people aren't going to sit down and watch Zodiac, which is a 3-hour film.
Word of the day calendar.
Yeah.
So I've expressed my displeasure for seeing people of color in prominent roles in films. Let's discuss your apparent disgust with two potentially gay underage children
murdered with a trombone,
trying to convince each other to perform fellatio. In a car. The one nice car in the movie was in this scene.
My problem with that scene is nothing to do with them being gay or trying to convince one another. My problem with that scene is it felt a little, because the film has gore and violence, and the first scene has the character of Corey being stabbed. That scene is it's just kind of, it's a little over the top. It's a little brutal even for this film. But then again, like later in the film, you have characters getting their like necks blown holes in. You have Gary Cole's character just like fucking shot like through the window and his eye kind of explodes. So I guess it's not really that over the top if you look at the rest of the film kind of as a whole. But to me, that was kind of an upsetting scene. And
what was upsetting about it? I guess
it was a little over the top. It was for me, it was bordering on torture porn. Because the character's tied up, and then he's doing the thing with the trombone slide, and he's like stabbing him in the back. It was a little torture porn. Just a little.
I loved it.
It's brutal. I mean,
it's super brutal.
It really gets across the idea that this killer is a really ruthless killer.
Right. The name one other horror movie, though, in the last 30 years where a high schooler, because I mean, they weren't adults. They were
teenagers.
Yeah, like a teenager, like a real teenager, not an 18-year-old, not a 17-year-old, but like a kid, basically, is brutally killed on screen. Because I can't think of one.
Not like that.
That was what struck me. It wasn't the awkward, like, hey, suck my dick in this Maserati that went, they were at like a radio station.
No, they were in like it was where they keep like signs.
Oh yeah, it was a neon graveyard.
Yeah.
So they're in this gorgeous car, like I said, the one nice car in the film, and yeah, it's two kids, and they're getting tortured to death.
Yeah,
I mean that's
the black character gets like just shot in the head
after getting bludgeoned.
Yeah, they don't even really. Yeah, whatever happened to him happened off screen.
Yeah, he got pretty fucked up.
Yeah, but the kills in this film are good, I think.
Yeah,
for a horror movie from 2014. Well, I mean, horror films now are kind of unimaginable.
I agree.
Yeah. But to be fair, like, the scene with the trombone was taken directly from the original film. They showed it. They showed a character being stabbed to death with a trombone. They showed the Lover's Lane characters being shot like they were in this film. But the brutality in this film, I think, works. That little, like I said, that scene pushes it a little, but the scene with Gary Cole where he just shot in the head, sitting in his chair, I thought was a really good scene. Mm-hmm. I thought that it was a really well done scene, because
that's probably the best. That's probably my favorite scene in the movie.
It just like comes out of nowhere. Like, he's just sitting in a chair getting a blowjob, and then he gets shot through the eye.
I want to talk about because I know you had seen the movie before, and we're playing along like you hadn't, but I hadn't seen it. And so he's getting his dick sucked by a hooker. And on the table to his right are a beer
and
a gun. And the camera is focused on the beer, and he's getting his dick sucked, and he starts to reach slowly to the table, and the camera focuses on the gun. You're like, oh, he's going to shoot this bitch. And he reaches for the gun and grabs it and stops, and then pulls the gun away, and then pulls the still out of focus beer and drinks it. It just, suspense in a horror movie is really hard to do.
Because a lot of the times it's really overdone.
It's overdone, and it usually just ends up, particularly modern horror, just devolves into being gory.
Yeah.
That was so excellently shot and so well done.
Yeah, you mentioned this already with the murderer, the Phantom, they keep focusing on his eyes and how they're blue, and then there are a bunch of characters in the film who have blue eyes. I think that's a really, another kind of really interesting way of creating suspense, because you're like, well, this character has blue eyes, and this character has blue eyes, and this character has blue eyes, so any scene that they're in, I'm going to be kind of keeping my eye on them, and that's what happens in that scene with Gary Cole. Obviously, then he gets shot, so he's taken out of the running.
Right.
But I think that that's another, because that's kind of Scream-esque, where in Scream they have the boots are kind of the big deal, and that one where it's like the killer is wearing a pair of combat boots. So a couple times in the film you see characters like putting out cigarettes with combat boots or walking around in combat boots, and you're like, okay, so one of them is there. But I think for this film, again, it's kind of just this weird throwback to when horror movies were done well.
Right.
And that, for me, is strange because, and I know that people love to, oh my god, The Witch was so good, or It Follows was so good, or, what was the one from last year? Don't Breathe. They're okay. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just super cynical about these movies that
I'm giving a thumbs down to Don't Breathe. I didn't think that movie
it was okay.
Is it Don't Breathe or Don't Speak?
Don't Breathe. The one with Stephen Lang where he's like the blind guy?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just super cynical as a horror movie fan, a horror movie fanatic, that I just can't get excited for these movies that are being hailed as like, oh my god, this is the next best film in the genre, and Jesus Christ, it's the film that's gonna revitalize the genre. The horror genre will never go away. The horror genre is a strong genre where people who make millions of dollars as big budget actors started their careers and will continue to start their careers.
If there was going to be a movie that revitalized the genre, it would have been this.
But this movie got completely just like, I don't know whatever happened.
I don't know how. If this was a failure on production and distribution and advertisement, or
I would say it was probably a failure of marketing, because I don't remember seeing anything about this film.
No, I didn't know that. I did not know until you had said, because our plans changed last minute, hey, we're going to watch this instead, and thank God we did.
Yeah.
I honestly could watch this movie tonight again.
It to me is one of these films that it didn't get the publicity that it needed, and so now it's kind of under the radar. I mean, it's not as under the radar as, say, our good friends the Dowdles film, the Poughkeepsie Tapes, which is like beyond under the radar. We're talking like under the radar, under the radar, under the radar. It's not like that. This is just kind of an overlooked horror film that got lost in the mix of other films from 2014 that came out.
This is up there with in terms of perfect horror movies. The Poughkeepsie Tapes is right at the top, and so is this.
Because this movie does a good job of separating itself from every other fucking remake, reboot,
Right.
retelling, reimagining, whatever name you're going to give to something it's just saying the same thing. So I think for me, again, we've talked about the ending, and I think the ending for me really does just kind of, it leaves a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth.
You rework the ending, though. The 10 minutes of this, the last 10 minutes of this film, I
would have had it a supernatural killer, not like full on supernatural killer, but like the idea that this is because she touches on it a little bit. She's like, the Phantom is never really like a real person. It's like an idea. The Phantom is like an idea,
right? Because
he's kind of, it's like the darkness in all people. That's what the Phantom is. And that to me was more interesting than the cop and her dead boyfriend.
I completely agree.
And that dead boyfriend thing felt super, super, super tacked on.
It didn't make any sense.
No.
Like, because it took me a second to recognize him. Like, is that the fucker from the first movie? And then they started talking like, I saw you die, Corey. No.
And they don't give any explanation why. It's like, well, we have no idea how they ever met up. And he gives this like really like quick little monologue where he's like, I didn't want to be what everyone else wanted me to be, so I did this. Like, okay. It's a little contrived.
I wasn't paying enough attention because I didn't expect there to be an ending like this. Were the Phantoms two different body types in the film?
And in Scream, you have Stu Macher, played by Matthew Lillard, who's tall, and then you have Billy Loomis, played by Skeet Ulrich, who's shorter than him.
Right.
And in that film, they never really make like a point of being like, look at their different body types, because one of them's shorter than the other. And I don't think they did that either in this film. Until it's the end and you're like, oh shit, she comes over, she kind of crests that little hill, and then there's another Phantom waiting for her on the other side.
It would have been kind of cool if she would have killed one first, and then like there's another one. Have you seen the film Shutter Island?
Yeah, I don't like that movie.
I didn't like the movie, but I loved the ending. And the thing I liked about the ending is that it was so open-ended. Was the guy crazy and they finally got to him and he realizes that he's crazy? Or was he actually a cop and he realizes, I'm fucked, I'm never getting off this island, and just throws his hands in the air and says, fine, I'm going to get the treatment. That, to me, was a perfect ending for this for that type of film. And I think an ending similar to that would have fit better here than an explanation. Because something like this killer that does everything perfect and can't get caught, that defies explanation in 2014, when this film was supposed to have taken place. And similar to what you were saying, had she killed the first Phantom, just shot him, and there's another one, sitting in the woods holding the fucking knife, waiting for her.
Yeah.
And she could still get away. You could still have the crappy ending where she goes to college and she's happy.
And then there's the Phantom Shadow.
Right. You can still have that, but that sort of reinforces, there is no sort of, that does reinforce the idea that the Phantom can never die, that the Phantom, and that ties back to the town being a character. Texarkana's always screwed. It's always fucked.
Always haunted by the Phantom. Because that's what this puts a nice little bow on the fact that the Phantom's gone.
Right.
And that is, oh God, it's just kind of undoing a lot of the good stuff that you've done in the film.
Man, the more I think about that, what better holy shit moment than, oh man, I finally did it. Stand up and there's a fucker with a bag over his head standing, across the river in the woods staring at you.
And then he just leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been great. Because then you're not sure if that is a person, like a spirit being or something. That would have been great.
Is she crazy? Is she just seeing shit?
Yeah. I think that would have been better.
I agree. 100%.
As opposed to this where it's just like, and there's, but then they do try to go supernatural, because how would that guy have survived being shot in the head? Right? I mean, that's like Jason or Freddy or Michael Myers.
But that's boring. I mean, but that in itself is boring.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that's super lame.
I agree.
Where it's just like, he can get shot in the head and survive, because that's what they kind of insinuate, is that the character of Deputy Foster survived getting shot in the head because they never found his body.
Right.
Really? We haven't really talked about the leads in the film, Addison Timlin or Travis Tope. I felt like Travis Tope, who played Nick, man, he wasn't given a whole lot to do, and then his character was kind of unceremoniously killed. Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. Like, to be essentially the second lead in the film and then just kind of disappear.
Well, I felt like they were kind of teasing him being the killer for a while.
Yeah.
Because if I remember correctly, he also had blue eyes, and he was super sketchy at the beginning, and he was trying to get in her panties. And
sounds right. I feel like he did have blue eyes.
And then, but no, I hear you. The last 20 minutes of the film, nothing to do, and then they find him dead on the train tracks.
Yeah, which to me was just kind of bothersome because I didn't know what the point of him being in the film was. If he's just going to be unceremoniously knocked off by the phantoms. Addison Timlin's okay. She's not memorable like Neve Campbell in Scream or Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween or Nancy Thompson or Heather Langenkamp in Nightmare on Elm Street.
She reminded me a lot of the lead in Scream. I felt like that was kind of the obvious inspiration for her character.
Well, and then this film kind of ends the way that Scream ends, where she goes off to college, and then, the Town That Dreaded Sundown 2.
Yeah,
now it's at college, and the thing's chasing her around.
It does, actually, a little bit, now that you draw those
think about it, right? Like, how do you do a Town That Dreaded Sundown 2? It takes place on the college campus.
I mean, that brings us full circle, though. Again, not to sound like a damn parrot, but I don't feel like the story isn't about her. The story isn't about any of the people that she killed. Or that the Phantom killed. The story is about the Phantom, and the story is about Texarkana.
Yeah. And that's the difference between this film and Scream. I think Scream is the closest I can think of with this film. Mm-hmm. They kind of trying to do two similar things with that meta take on horror. But when you take a step back, Scream does a better job of ending the film. Because Scream, it's like, well, we're just doing this for fun because we were bored and we had nothing better to do. If that had been the case in this film, or it had been like a more supernatural thing, I think I would have enjoyed it more. But we've already touched on that. But yeah, I mean, the town of Texarkana is such a big part of this film. Having it just be, oh, now she's in college and now the Phantom is on the Cal State campus.
Right.
Like it would be interesting maybe. It would have to be done particularly well for me to have any interest, but I don't see a point. Because it's not the Town That Dreaded Sundown. Because it has nothing to do with the Town That Dreaded Sundown.
I love one final thing on the ending. I love one thing that I did like about the ending. They sort of implied that Texarkana got over the Phantom because they showed a theater and there was a poster for the original film. And the mayor, if you remember, at the
said we're not showing it.
We're never showing this film again. And there was a poster for the Town That Dreaded Sundown on the side of a building. And I kind of took that to mean, as she grew up and went to college, the town just kind of reverted back to its old wicked ways. It was right after they showed the table of the preachers. And I thought that was kind of neat. That was a neat nod to the tendencies of people to just kind of revert back to their old habits. And
I mean, I don't know. There might be a sequel. I don't think so. I haven't heard anything. It's been almost 3 years now since the last one came out, but they left it open. I felt like they left it open.
I hope so. It'd be great.
That ending shot's pretty great, though. I'll give them credit. That ending shot's great, even if I don't really like what it was going for.
It's easy to miss because
it's taking place in like the lower left of the frame. So here at Kultureshock.com, we've actually gone away from the skip it or watch it conclusion that we come to, and we're just going to go to the standard 1 out of 5 rating for the film. So, Mr. Hall, what would you give this film out of 5 and best performance?
I would give this film, The Town That Dreaded Sundown, a 4.5. Even go as high as to say a 4.75. This is my first review of the year using this new system. This, to me, the final 10 minutes of this movie, notwithstanding, this film would get a 5. Easy. This is a perfect horror movie.
You think so?
Absolutely. This is a perfect horror film. If you want to put it in the slasher genre, this is definitely a perfect slasher film.
It's not a perfect true crime film, but it is a true crime film.
I would concede that. I feel this is a perfect slasher horror film. Everything about this movie, with the exception of the ending, is done so perfectly and just so absolutely on point. Like I said, we could get done with this, leave the office, I could go back home and watch this movie again. I was that entertained and that excited while I was watching this movie. Best performance, man, I gotta go to the production team and the way that they present Texarkana and all the little nuances and all the little eccentricities and little quips about this film and the city and where they live just blow me away in terms of immersion when it comes to the setting. I don't think I've been this kind of tied to to a location in a film in this long.
I think for me, probably a 4 out of 5, maybe 3, and I'll go 3.5 out of 5. There are some things in this film that do bother me. The ending, I think, is a little harder for me to overlook than obviously it is for you giving it a much higher rating. But a 3.5 out of 5, I think, for me is really where I stand with this film. It's a good film. It's an interesting true crime film because it does something that most true crime films don't. It kind of ties everything back together, but does it in a really entertaining way. So I think that kind of gives it a bigger leg up than a lot of other films that I've seen in the genre. And best performance for me, I like Gary Cole in the film. I think he's good. I like Gary Cole in most things that he's in, but a lot of the secondary characters in this film aren't given a whole lot of screen time. They're not given a lot to do. The film follows Addison Timlin so much that you're not really given a chance to see Gary Cole or Edward Herrmann or Ed Lauter Dennis O'Hare is okay, but he's kind of doing his American Horror Story shtick that I've seen from him like 1,000 times. Before now at this point. So I like Gary Cole in this film a lot. What do you think the film has on Rotten Tomatoes? Everyone's favorite critical aggregations.
Critics, I would say, probably gave it a 75. I would say user score 65.
Critics gave it 70%. Audience gave it 40%.
What?
Yeah.
40?
It's a pretty big.
40?
It's a pretty big discrepancy.
Are you kidding?
I'm dead serious. 40%. 70-40.
What?
I don't know.
What about this film is there to not like? I just don't. Aside from the ending,
I think people were probably looking for a more straight reboot or a more straight remake. Man, some people don't like this kind of stuff. Some people don't understand it. Some people don't want that. Some people don't think that it's very entertaining. I mean, you could look at any number of things for people not having any interest in something like this.
I could not fathom watching this movie and looking at it and saying, I don't like this. If you're a fan of horror, if you're a fan of suspense, it has everything.
I agree.
It's violent. It is violent. It's kind of gory. There's a good deal of suspense. There's good set of tits in it. I mean, something for the fellas. You got 2 kids blowing each other. Something for the ladies.
I can see people not liking it, but I feel like maybe the film wasn't advertised the way it should have been, and maybe they didn't know how to advertise this film at all. That's probably what this boils down to. Kind of like a film like Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise, where they had no idea how to advertise it. Because, is it a comedy? Is it an action film? Is it a drama? This film is this a reboot? Is this a remake? How do we classify this film? And films like this suffer when they can't be easily placed into one of 5 boxes.
Right.
Does that make sense? So... well, before I talk about next week's Culture Casts, Mark, anything you want to plug?
You can find me here at Kultureshock.com, where I helm the 3-count Kultureshock.com's wrestling-themed website. We're about to release our counties for the year, our year-end wrestling awards tied to the wonderful, wacky world of WWE. Chris, who do you think the front runner is for Wrestler of the Year?
Oh, no. I have no idea. I'm going to guess probably AJ Styles.
It is, we have had 2 votes for AJ Styles, yes.
Yeah, that's not who I would vote for, but...
I'm also the co-host of our wrestling podcast, Running the Ropes, and I also co-host Pick Up and Play, our video game themed podcast, which, if I can sweet talk him into it, I'm hoping to have Chris Stachiw on for our end of the year video game stuff.
Yeah, you can... Sweet talk me.
Yes. All right. We got our big get for next episode.
Big get.
You heard it here first, folks.
Got the big get for the next episode. You can follow me here on Kultureshock.com. I occasionally write for the Screening Room, and I host the Kulturecast, obviously the podcast you are listening to now. You can follow me on Twitter at CultureStash. And if you like what you're hearing now, we have a bunch of backlogged episodes of the Kulturecast over at the website, Kultureshock.com/Kulturecast, also on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and we do it live on Mixlr.com/Kultureshock. So you can join in, listen, scream at us if you don't agree with our opinion. Patreon.com/Culture_Shocked is where you can go to kick a couple dollars our way to keep the lights on. And Wavoka.bandcamp.com is where you can go to check out Wavoka. They provide the intro, outro music for the Kulturecast. That song is Lament off of their album titled Saros, S-A-R-O-S. Mark, big thanks to you for stepping in and taking in the co-hosting job this week on the Kulturecast.
My pleasure. Anytime you guys need me, let me know. I can come back and stink up the joint.
Stink it up indeed. And make sure to check out next week's Kulturecast.